Howdy friends, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the Enigma rune word. You know it, you love it. But what would happen if they took away the teleport function from it? Would you still like it? Would it still be good? So here we have the classic runes that we will need: a Ja, an Ith, a Burr, 3-socketed mage plate. That's just kind of what I picked for this video. You'll see that I have this in completely legitimate character that I was able to cook up with no quests done, so... Now, just for the purpose of this video, I just used Hero Editor just so I could create this instead of just throwing up like a picture of what it would look like. So basically, I wanted to make this video. Obviously, everyone uses everyone uses Enigma in kind of their endgame builds, but I really wanted to look at everything but teleport. So I've made a couple other videos along the way talking about like, hey, is this rune word really that great? Or why is this the best rune word for blah de blah? And I wanted to take a look at Enigma kind of separate from teleport, because obviously it would be really dumb to be like, is this item worth making? The answer is going to be yes, because it gives every single character teleport. So let's dive into it. So you start off with a Ja, Ith, and a Burr rune, which let me see what this roll was. So 759, I think you can go, let me see what the max is. Roll kind of sucked. You can get up to a 775 defense roll. So let's just really start looking at the stats. So this one is pretty good. I use a mage plate. It has a really low strength requirement, only 55 strength needed. This is going to be something that you typically use, really on any character that doesn't have teleport, that isn't a sorceress. But like I said, kind of sticking to the spirit of the video, I wanted to look at all of the stats separate from teleport to see, is this actually a good piece of item to invest in? So starting off, we have +2 to all skills. That out of the gate is going to be awesome. You could get something like Skin of the Viper Magi that also has the plus skills, but anything where you can add something to your overall skills is going to be a worthwhile investment in the game, especially for anything like skillers and stuff like, well, I guess everything is skills in this game, but anytime you want to boost up all your stats, really in the end game, adding anything to your skills is going to just increase your overall damage output. Next, we have 45% faster run walk, which if you're taking teleport completely out of the equation, just making something so that your character can move around a lot faster. So this is obviously with Enigma on versus with Enigma off. It is kind of, it is a really big difference, especially if you start adding in things like charms that you can add faster run walk to. You can really beef up your character, again, assuming teleport was not part of this original rune word. So that's going to be really nice, especially for things like Amazons and stuff like that. This is where you're going to, anytime you can move around faster is going to be awesome. I know, again, teleport is part of it, but for this video it won't be. +1 in teleport, we're not going to look at. Plus up to 775 to defense. So I think the lowest roll is 750 added to defense, which is incredible because this mage, as you can see in the beginning of the video, that mage plate had okay defense, but you can really boost any item, well over to right here, well over the $1,000 defense mark. The only price is, is the cost of the runes. But it can really turn anything into a great source of protection for your character. Next, we have the +74 to strength. So this is going to be based on the character level. So how this mechanic works is that it's going to be plus 0.75% times your character level. So if my character level was 100, which I know you can't do, it would be 75 to strength. If it was, if you were level 1, it's going to be 0.75 and so on and so forth. Again, for characters where you're going to be really heavy on mana use. So even just a barbarian like this, where you're going to be, if you're doing something like a whirlwind barb, where you're using a ton of mana, or if you're doing something like a necromancer, where you're going to need a ton of mana, any points that you don't need, any additional points that you don't need to put into strength is really going to be your friend in the long run, especially when you're trying to pair this with other beefier items where typically strength is a pretty big requirement for a lot of builds. So anytime you can save points, so you'd be able to put these 74 points in let's say vitality to get some extra life, or energy is not really going to be a big deal, but any extra life and stamina or mana is really going to go a long way for you in the end game, which realistically, unless your RNG is super off the charts and you are super lucky, the chances of finding a Ja, Ith, and a Burr rune it takes a while. People can get lucky, but it takes a really long time. Next, we have increased maximum life by 5%. So that's just going to be so right now with it on, it's 1523. that one's pretty self-explanatory. Then it's 1451. So taking those points that you would be saving on the strength, you can dump those into your vitality, and then you're basically building up more and more and more over time as you kind of are able to reallocate some of these stats, which again is going to be incredible for end game builds. Anytime you have more health is going to be an overall positive thing for your character. Next, we have physical damage received reduced by 8%. Again, another awesome one if this is going to be something that you're going to be using that's typically squishier, so to speak, like a necromancer, something where you're not typically up in the thick of it, or if you're doing something like a hardcore character, anytime you can reduce the amount of physical damage is going to be great. Again, I know we kind of, for the purposes of this video, I want to talk not specifically with teleport, but if we add teleport back in just for this second, if you're teleporting around, most of the time where you're going to get caught in kind of the thick of things is if you accidentally teleport into the center of a mob and they all just swing at you at the same time. I'm thinking of basically I'm getting triggered from a cow run or something like that, where there's going to just be tons and tons and tons of mobs around you, where teleporting into the middle of one, you're going to be dead in a hurry. Next on the list, we have plus 14 to life after each kill. This is just going to be adding to the overall survivability that this is going to give you. Again, in that end game, if you can, the more you can be replenishing your stats and your resources as you're going. I know life is, people don't technically think of it as a resource, but it is a resource. Keeps you alive, keeps you moving. Any character with, let's say, a hardcore character, something like that, you're going to want to be able to not be so reliant on potions. You want to kind of be able to have this mechanism where you can self heal along the way, especially if you're going to be dealing a lot of damage, which most of these end game builds are going to be designed for blowing through a lot of mobs, except if you're doing something like a smiter or something like that. But next, 15% of damage taken goes to mana. So this is going to be something where, if you reallocated those points that you're saving in the strength bonus into something like energy, where you're getting more mana, or if you have gear that adds to your mana, it basically mimics the effect of an energy shield that the sorceress has. So again, you can safely move around. I almost said teleport again. You can safely move around the map, taking teleport outside of this, and you don't have to be so worried about if I'm going to be just one-shotted, because some of the damage is already going to be reduced from the physical damage. Again, this only specifically if you're being targeted by someone that deals physical damage. But then you have that initial or the additional 15% damage taken goes to mana. So it's really just going to be kind of like taking the damage that you would have normally received, and you're basically just knocking it down a peg, which is always going to be great. In the end game, things are going to be a lot harder to kill, and you're going to want to be as tanky as possible. Again, if we're talking about builds like a necromancer or something like that, any pet builds where you're not really super worried about yourself, you still do want to be worried about yourself, because if you die, then the whole thing's pointless. Finally, we have, this is probably the best part of Enigma outside of teleport, 99% better chance of getting magic items. Again, this is going to be based on character level. This is a flat 1-to-1 percentage boost. So if you can use this, like it says here, the required level is 65 to equip this, which is pretty low. If you have insane RNG and you get super lucky along the way, you're already getting a boost, an addition of 65% better chance of getting magic items. So magic find, this is kind of the one-stop shop item for doing really anything. If you have some sort of magic find setup that you would normally switch to, this would be one less thing that you would need to switch to begin magic finding along the way. So all of that said, again, taking out teleport, I think this would still be a really, really good piece of armor to get. The only thing that I wouldn't agree with if they were to suddenly take away the teleport would be the cost. So Ja, Ith, and Burr is going to be a pretty significant amount of time to actually get. If you're doing something like Lower Kurast, if you're trying to actively hunt for these runes, you're going to be doing that a lot. Probably the most common way that I think people would do it is maybe doing just chaos runs, killing a pretty big number of enemies is just going to increase your chances in the long run of dropping the Ja and the Burr rune along the way. So I'm going to end the video there. Let me know what you guys think, though. If they took away teleport from Enigma, do you think it would still be worth it? If they drop the price down to just a John and Ith rune, I think that would still even be worth it. But let me know what you guys think. Outside of teleport, do you think this is still good? And if they didn't have teleport, do you think there would be another item that would replace it for kind of like the overall end game piece of item that everyone should be kind of hunting for? So I'm going to leave you there. thanks for tuning in. If you're liking this video, I have a lot of other videos talking about runewords and just Diablo 2 content in general. So give me a like, give me a subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Leave a comment down below just to say hello. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you guys on the next one.